Hi everyone. If you can't tell, this is going to be one of my more somber videos, and not just because I'm especially tired tonight. So, teaching is sort of something that I've always been interested in, and honestly, I'd probably be doing it today if it weren't for the fact that it really doesn't pay well. Now, I want to talk about teaching and professors in tech degrees specifically, because that is something that is particularly hard to teach, and I think in the industry I'm in, it's very hard to find people to do this sort of job. And it's really special when you find someone that is really doing an amazing job at it. Now, I went through my bachelor's degree and I had those professors that were not good, that were okay, that were good. And when I say good, I mean I liked their class, I enjoyed it, I learned something, that were great, where I really liked their class, I learned a lot. And then those, truly great professors come in, those ones that people say changed their lives. And I don't want to say that because it sounds so corny, but it is sort of true. I have professors I took, and I'll just name a few of them. So there's one at UCF, Sean Zoom-Lansky. He'd probably be the number one I can say changed my life. I hate to say that, but yeah, it's corny, whatever. It's just something special when somebody can teach you something and it really makes you view the world and your own future in a different way and yourself in a different way. And I think it's really hard to be that person. Now, the reason I say that is because I know this stuff is hard. When I started working where I work, I was informed that there is a STEM academy there and they are open for teachers. Basically, kids will go to a classroom and we will do a 2-hour class twice a week. And it can be on a subject that is already in existence and you can study up on it. All the material already exists. But I heard there was no C programming class, and that's how I learned to program, was C programming. Now, these are high school kids, so that might have been a bit of a tall order, but I strongly believe in that C is an amazing language to start with. So I decided to make all of my own curriculum going in. And what I learned doing it is that there are a few things that make a professor good or great or just really great. And then there are things that make this harder than it looks. It's really easy when you're going through school to just think the professor's job is easy and they're being a jerk, and even to kind of establish this camaraderie with your fellow classmates against the professor and start to tear them down, not in front of them obviously. This happens pretty often, and I never really liked it in my bachelor's degree, but what I learned doing the STEM Academy is that this stuff is a lot harder than it looks, especially in something technical. That, the great professor I was talking about, Sean Zoom-Lansky, he would actually program in front of us through the entire class. I'm talking, he would write C, being projected to the overhead in front of a huge auditorium of people, and he was good at it. And he was not only that, he was funny, he kept things interesting, he kept us engaged somehow, and he made it hard. And I think that last part was important because with a subject that is technical and is actually difficult, it should be hard and you should have to work to get better at it. So I wanted to do what he did when I started doing this. And I think I may have gotten, 60%, if I'm being generous as to how good he was. It is not as easy as you think to just stand up in front of people and program. And you're gonna get something wrong, right? And so that was such an amazing experience, and it's so taxing. Creating the curriculum itself was very, very hard. I would almost create these acts that I would go into, and I would almost consider myself an actor as a teacher. And I really loved doing it, but boy, it took a lot out of me. And I did that for a year before I started doing my master's degree. Now, there are a few things, in my opinion, that really make that good professor, and the biggest one is that they are passionate about what they do. Generally, they're good at it, but if you're a professor, you should be good at what you're teaching. That doesn't really say too much, but the passion really shows. You can tell when a professor really, really is passionate about what they do. You can just tell. And if you're looking to take someone and you want to find that, you will sort of see that passion reflected in their Rate My Professor scores. And it may be mixed in with it was really hard, especially if you see a lot of reviews that say it was really hard, but man, this guy was truly amazing. I was super lucky to have this class. You know, where people are actually so won over by these professors that they're willing to, you know, break whatever level of jaded they have from being a college student and just really, you know, say very nice things about, you know, this professor. That is when you know you found the right person. Now, you do have to be careful. Sometimes you'll get a lot of really nice comments on professors that are good and maybe are passionate, but they also make it easy. And you do want to avoid taking classes, even if they have a professor that's funny and engaging, that are easy, because they will not make you work for the, you know, you will not learn the things you need to learn. And I can tell you, these classes I've taken, you know, the ones that I really liked, I use the skills they taught me every day. And without those classes, I don't know if I would be who I am today. And I think that that's really important, is that you're taking a class that is not just going to enamor you and teach you something, but it's sort of going to change who you are in a way. And that sounds sort of weird and sort of bad, I know that, but it's also really true. Now, the reason I'm saying this is because I got lucky enough in my master's degree, and I've had a lot of what I would call great professors, but I think this time around in my Agile Methodologies class, I have one of those truly great professors. And that's interesting because I didn't think that was possible in a fully remote class. But, you know, this is about Agile Methodologies, which is basically software development. So we do go into technical stuff, but we don't really do any technical stuff. I mean, we sort of do. We have a project that we have to do. At this point, we're not trying to teach you how to program anymore. We're pretty sure you got that down. We more want to teach you how to be better at the big stuff. And this one is particularly about Agile. And Agile is something I'd like to go into, and I think I will be able to go into very well after this class, but I do want to wait until the end. I'll have, you know, a lot more to say. But Agile is software development practices, and some of those are almost like more project managerial practices, and some of them are very technical. Now, the reason I really like this professor at this point is that you can just tell he is very, very passionate about what he's teaching. And you'll see this in any truly great professor, that you can tell that they're doing it because, one, they really, really love what they do. And two, they want other people to feel the way they feel about it. Because I know how that feels. You know, I learned programming, you know, C programming from Sean Zunilansky's class. And I loved it so much that I wanted to do what he did. You know, of course, I like working in the field and stuff, and I intend to continue doing that. Maybe I'll be a professor, you know, when I retire. But I wanted to do this thing where I could take the way I feel about this stuff, the amount of passion, and just, it's so hard for me to describe. I don't think I'm ever happier than when I'm doing this stuff. I mean, there are bad days and not so, you know, great weeks and stuff, but there's also those just amazing moments where I am just truly in love with what I'm doing, and I don't think there's any better feeling. And for a lot of my life, I didn't have that. You know, I didn't have anything that I really felt that way about, and I feel super lucky to have gotten that in my life, and I want other people to have that in their life, which is why I decided to teach the STEM Academy. And I think that a truly great professor is probably coming from that sort of point of view, that they have really found something that they are in love with, and they want to spread that love. They want to give other people that opportunity to, you know, love it the way that they do. You know, knowing that not every person will be just exactly like they are, but giving them these experiences that can sort of shape them as a person. And there are a lot of things, like obviously a lot of them you can't tell before you take the class, but for me at this point, I don't have to go too far in to notice. And the way I did with this class, the Agile Methodologies class, is the way he was talking about these methodologies. You know, he would go into the correct amount of detail, willing to be direct and personable versus just static, right? That's a big thing, is that there are a lot of professors that just put up a PowerPoint and just read off the PowerPoint, very bland. And that is sort of a sign that this is a job, right? This is not how this professor is. He really dives deep, and I believe he is analyzed closely. I'd be surprised if he hasn't shot more video for his class than I have done for my entire YouTube channel, including the outtakes. That I know he has put time and effort into this to emphasize the right things and explain it in a way that it's understandable, it gets as much detail across without losing you. I can just tell when someone's done this. And the way he speaks about things, I can tell he's speaking a little bit more from the heart than from the head, and that sounds bad, right? That sounds like, everything in a technical field should be mental, analytical, logical. But when you are really far into something, there is something that happens where you just know it at your core. And to explain that can be very difficult. But then to turn around and be able to take, what you know in your heart and retranslate it through that logical filter, that is something that is very, very difficult to do. It takes a lot of time and effort, and I can tell this professor has put the time in to do that. In this class, we write papers. Another way I can tell this professor has this attitude is he reads everything I write, and he writes comments, and they are positive. Now, obviously, I wouldn't say comments should always be positive, but he really reads what I write, and he actually relates what I write to his own experiences. So I'm not sure if I'm getting special treatment. I doubt it. I think he's really reading this stuff and analyzing it and trying to really connect with his students, which I think is something that you have to do to be at this level when it comes to teaching. Honestly, I did not think I would have, at the master's level, a professor like this, that I kind of thought I was lucky to have one, two. I feel a lot more lucky now. And I will say in my master's degree, I've had a lot of professors that are really, really good. But this one, he really does stand out. And it makes me want to do better when I see how much effort the professor is putting in and how how into it he is. It really, makes me want to work harder, especially, because he at least, he has a positive demeanor when speaking with students, that he's positive, he really is reading and listening and reflecting. And that is saying to me, okay, this person cares about what I do, because that's something that can really easily happen in college, that you'll get the idea that the professor really doesn't care about what you do. You're just gonna turn it in and they're gonna grade it based on some algorithm of some type, and you're gonna move on to the next thing. And that's all there is to it. With a good professor, I should say a really great professor, that shouldn't be the sense you get. And I almost feel to a certain degree like it's to my own detriment, right? That I could not try as hard in this class. I am doing exceedingly well in this class. I could slack off a little bit. I could take it easy on myself, maybe get a little bit of sleep. But I really can't do that when I have a professor that's, this passionate, because I feel like I'm robbing myself if I don't put my all into it. And it's no longer about doing what I have to do to get the grade or to survive or pass. Now it's moved at a level of I am doing this because I feel like I can make myself better this way. And any moment, any time I disregard that, I'm really just disregarding my own future and myself, basically. It's nice to be in this situation, and it's a very positive experience. Now, that doesn't mean that you won't have hard times. In my bachelor's, in Sean Zumlansky's class, I know I had some very hard and what I would describe as stressful times, but somehow at the same time, his passion for it and that feeling I had of, I would only be disregarding myself, that really has helped me today in my career. I do not think I'd be where I am if it weren't for that, because there were a lot of times where I would just say upset. I was so stressed out that I was upset and I was scared. because this was a weed out class, and one of the first ones, I'd say. Well, actually not quite, but it's one of the kind of earlier classes that people tend to take in my degree, but it is the programming weed out class for sure. And I had this feeling that I love this. I learned it, at that moment, maybe a bit earlier, that I love this. And this is the weed out class. And now that I know I love this and I've found this thing that I love, that I've discovered that can really change my life, well, now I'm afraid that I will be, weeded out of that thing, and I will be sort of banished from that thing. And that makes me work hard. But the other thing that makes me work hard is seeing his passion and his attitude, and wanting to be able to have some of that for myself, being able to have some of that in my personality. That is really what it takes. That's the formula it takes to really get someone to learn to the degree that they're changing themselves for the better. And boy, I'll tell you, it is not an easy task. And that's something, if you're going to take away anything from this video, if you're going through school and you are tempted to criticize the professor, or you always want to blame the professor for anything bad that happens throughout the class or to your own grade, I would recommend that you don't have that attitude, because one, you may regret it, and if you have a bad attitude, you're not going to tend to try hard. You're going to see this as an adversarial relationship where it's almost like a chess game, and what do I have to do to get on to the next thing? What do I have to do to pass? What do I have to do to get my GPA up? That can work, but it's not a great way to really learn. This stuff is hard. Teaching, especially the more technical it is, the harder it is. It is difficult. To get people to care about what you're teaching is hard, even if they are people that would naturally like it. I've always thought that somebody can take a subject that someone is truly destined to be in love with, like this is their life's calling, right? And make them hate it. A bad professor, in my opinion, can do that. A bad professor can take something that you are truly meant to do for your career and make you despise it. And I think I'm lucky enough, at least I hope, that I've never had a professor that's that bad, but I can see how it can happen. But a great professor can take something that maybe isn't even your main focus. That's as far as the way your life is going. It's not really what you were born to do, and make it a part of what you do. And when we talk about agile methodologies, I do not see myself as one of these people that, like a Scrum Master. I have a video on what that is, although I feel like I may have to redo it after taking this class. I don't see myself as one of those people, but at the same time, this professor is so great, and that just makes the class and the material that great, and it makes me not only want to incorporate that into what I do, it makes me want to make it part of myself. So yeah, finding this isn't easy. All you can really do is go off Rate My Professor. But the other thing I would recommend is talk to people. Talk to other people that have taken these classes. And this is where it comes in handy to make friends. So if you do that and you talk to people that you are getting to know or know well, they'll tell you when the person is the right person to take. And obviously, you have to deal with class load, especially like in your bachelor's. But keep in mind that, even if a professor is really great, but they're really hard, you don't necessarily want to overload yourself. Try to get that professor, but don't kill yourself. I don't know what would happen if you did that, but it probably, wouldn't be good. Yeah. And of course, I mean metaphorically, kill yourself by taking too many hard classes at the same time. So, guys, I hope this helped in some way. And this is something that, like I said, if you're going to take anything away from this, have a little bit more appreciation for what your professors do. But beyond that, try to find these professors, because I know I sound cheesy and I sound like some of these people are like, oh, this professor changed my life, woo. It really can be that impactful to you. And it really can make your future better. I feel like I'm living proof of that. So anyway, have a good night.